On this episode of Game Shack, I explain why I just canceled my pre-order for the Arcade1up Star Wars pinball game, but why you probably shouldn't. That and some more news coming up next. Hey everybody, thanks for stopping back into the Game Shack. I'm your host, JDV for Evil Genius Entertainment. Okay, so the big news today is that Walmart is going to start carrying Arcade1up Star Wars Marvel and presumably at some point Attack from Mars game, if there's ever more than 4 of them. And so that's great news for anybody whose pre-order was canceled, anybody who was sitting on the fence thinking about getting these games. If you want these games, they were still available for pre-order hours after the news broke, kind of on the net and Facebook and everything. So if you want the game, go ahead and get it. And I'm going to give you some reasons here in a second why you ought to get the game. But it was very ironic news for me because I had literally just hours before canceled my pre-order for the Star Wars Arcade1up game. And anybody who's been watching this channel for a while knows I've been going back and forth on this for some time. I have a video, 5 reasons why you should pre-order, 5 reasons why you ought to cancel. And in my own heart and mind, I kept going back and forth, in part because I did want to review the game for the channel. But at this point, it looks like by the time I'd get one, there's going to be enough reviews out that I really don't, it's not going to be that crucial. So the timing, by the time I got one, everybody else is going to already probably have the machine, particularly if the rumors are true that some of the people who ordered in late December, like yours truly, are looking at getting their pre-orders delayed past the March 15th deadline. I don't know if that rumor is true. I mean, it would seem weird that Walmart's going to get a bunch of them in on May 15th, but somehow if you ordered from GameStop in December that you still wouldn't be getting yours on March 15th. So I don't know if I put much credence in that rumor, but it is a rumor that has been going around, and it's been going around pretty hard now for the past week or so. Seeing that kind of made me happy because I thought, well, if I ultimately regret not getting the machine, then maybe I can hop in and get it at Walmart. And clearly them selling the game at Walmart, at least to my mind, indicates that Arcade1up is serious about trying to put these things out in big enough numbers, because I'm pretty sure Walmart does not carry the more niche games. I mean, they're plowing out the NBA Jams and the Pac-Mans of the world. They're not carrying Golden Axe, at least not that I've ever seen. So I think that's really good news. It's good news to me because I just canceled, and maybe I will want the game. So why did I cancel? Well, it's pretty simple. In the time between my interest in virtual pinball was piqued by these games offered by Arcade1up, and by the time we get to now, in a week into March, I have basically completely built a prototype virtual pinball game that not only has all of the Star Wars games that I was going to get, but dozens and dozens of more. Aliens, Alien vs. Predator, Doom, Sorcerer's Lair, all the Zen tables, Attack from Mars, because I'm running FX3. And because of that, and because the machine that I built is in many, many ways technically superior to the Arcade1up machine. It has a larger screen, it has a better sound system, it has 2.1 sound system, it has back glasses that change based on a game that you have, it has nudge buttons, it has a better processor, better CPU. There's just a lot of things about what I have made that are either technically equal to or superior, and in some ways vastly superior to, particularly the screen size. And in my mind, the angle of the screen is better in my version than in the Arcade1up version, because the Arcade1up version is essentially flat. There's a little angle to it, but basically you have to either be sitting on a stool or standing up to play this game. Well, I don't want to do either. I want to be able to sit in a chair and play it, or if I want to, or stand up. And my design is, I think, at least for the way I play, a little better for me. Your mileage might vary. You might look at my design and say it's just terrible. The other thing about my design, it's not finished yet. There's still some tweaking I have to do. I still have to put a little bit of metal trim on it, and I, of course, have to put graphics on the side. But in the end, I think it's slick enough that my wife comes out here and she'll play it. And the kids will play it. And of course, my drunken buddies will play on it too. It has a glass top. Well, that's better than the Arcade1up one. I mean, so in many, many ways, it is better, and of course, it is cheaper. It was going to be very close to $600 with tax and everything by the time I got that Star Wars game, or even buying every single part of this machine from scratch, which of course I didn't have to do, but even if you had to, you're still probably coming in at under $500. So just for me, the rationale of buying a game that only had 10 games with a smaller screen, with, frankly, not anywhere near as good as graphics, even though my monitor is only 720, it looks a lot better than the footage I've seen so far coming out of these Arcade1ups. But the inability to add games, to me, would be very, very frustrating. And it would certainly overcome the cool factor of having an accelerometer, a digital plunger, and having the nudge, and the solenoids. Frankly, the solenoids to me are wildly disappointing looking at some of the close-up looks at them. Retro Ralph, original console gamer, they all are saying the same thing, which is, yeah, they're neat, but if you have the sound turned up, like you probably are, you can barely even hear them, and you cannot feel them. Well, I want to be able to feel them almost more than I want to hear them. So all of that said, should you cancel your pre-order, or should you not order this because you're thinking about maybe building your own cabinet? And I would say that you would have to be pretty serious about doing your own V-Pin cabinet to cancel out on your Star Wars, Marvel, or Attack from Mars thing. There are a few massive advantages that the Arcade1up and eventually that game's a pinball game, when it gets released in big numbers, will have. One, they're dedicated units, so when you turn them on, they're going to work, and you don't have to sign into Windows 10. You don't have to move a mouse around. You don't have to activate Joy to Key or some other program to get the flippers to work. You just turn it on, and bam, there they are, 10 games that are going to work every single time, so that your wife, your kids, your friends who are not as computer savvy as you are going to be able to turn on the machine and play the machine. You're going to be able to turn on the machine when you're tired, or when you just want to get in a quick game and you don't want to have to mess around. Realistically, I'm still looking at getting an At Games pinball game. I'm still looking at Toy Shock's Haunted House game. Now, we don't know if that's going to still be at Walmart because of this news from Arcade1up. They might be, there's only so much store shelves, there's only so many places in a warehouse, so it'll be interesting if this news today affects Toy Shock. But in a general sense, these units that you can just flick on and go have a lot to say for them. The second thing is these things are wildly difficult to build. I mean, they just are. I mean, you do have to know a certain amount of carpentry. My thing is not all that beautiful. Anything, well, it kind of looks like a coffin. And they basically do. I mean, it wasn't that hard, but you still got to own a saw. I mean, I use 3 different kinds of saws to build this. You have to be comfortable with drilling holes of various sizes. You have to be comfortable with working metal. You have to, deal with steam. You have to deal, with Zen and send them a picture for your cabinet. You have to be able to use Joy to Key. You have to be comfortable with, working with an encoder. And, like in my setup, you've got to learn a little bit about, setting up the base shaker and everything. So there's lots of little things. None of it is really overly complicated, any one part of it. But all the sum total of it is a lot of work. I've put a lot of work into this. I've put a lot of learning into it because I didn't know bleep about any of this stuff 2 months ago. So, but I was so intrigued by it, and I've always wanted a pinball game since I was, a teenager. And so now I have a pinball game. Not only do I have a pinball game, I got 40 different pinball games. If you just want the experience of virtual pinball, you want something that looks beautiful, and all three of those machines look beautiful. Attack from Mars, I think, being first, then Star Wars, and then Marvel. But all of them are gorgeous. You know, Arcade1up does, I mean, that's what they do best, is they put out slick-looking stuff. It's super slick. Turn it on, it's gonna work. That's great, and you do get to have the haptic feedback. You do get to have the plunger, and the accelerometer, and all that. The DMD that lights up in the back there. There's so much good to say. And about the Star Wars game in particular, it has the licensed music, and that is unlike Aliens, it's unlike Jaws, it's unlike a whole bunch of Jurassic Park, I don't think, has licensed music. So, you know, at least when you're getting the Star Wars Arcade1up, you're getting the whole tamale. You're getting the solenoids, the nudge, the flippers, the sounds, the music, you're getting everything. So there is a lot, particularly if you are a Star Wars fan. Wow, that's a one-stop shop, $550 plus tax. You'll get that game eventually. And now you're done. You don't have to learn anything. You don't have to go through all of the ridiculous crap that I've had to go through, the multiple trips to go into lulls and all of that. The one thing about when you're building all your own stuff and modding it all the time is you don't get to play it enough. I really, really wish they had Wi-Fi, because that is a big part of these Steam games, the leaderboards and everything like that, the new games that you can buy, the firmware updates if there are any. It's really disappointing that the games did not have that. But there is a USB port, and we know from Miss Pac-Man, and we know from Outrun, that with that USB port, it is feasibly possible to upgrade firmware, at least on those two machines. So fingers crossed for everybody who is getting this. Hopefully down the line, Arcade1up sees the light and lets you guys download more games onto there, and that could be something that could sway me back into buying this unit. So I guess that's going to wrap it up for this episode. For everybody who was waiting for me to review the unit, you know, maybe down the line, but of course by then it'll be old news. There is going to be more, I'm going to have more content on actually my build of this unit, and as I go further into the process, like ordering the graphics, I'm going to try to you know, guide you through that. If you are interested in building your own pinball game, you can look at, you know, a schlub like me. I'm doing it, and I really hadn't done any of this stuff 2 months ago, so it is very doable. If you are on a limited budget, it is much more affordable to build it yourself. I mean, you save a couple of $100, and if you own your own PC, if you own a couple of monitors, and that's where the big expense was for me, is a new monitor and a new PC. If you have some of these components laying around, you're really talking about less than $100, and you can have something that is very slick. Okay, so that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up if you did. It really does help. Good luck to everybody who's trying to get into these games. I hope you get them, and I hope you enjoy them. And I hope I'm not disappointing anybody by not reviewing them, at least any time soon. Love each other, and until the next time, I'll see you guys in the Game Shack. Mwah! Maybe next year. Probably not. Be sure to visit EvilGeniusEntertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.